contained in the proposed bylaw. When speaking, please proceed to the microphone and commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. If they wish, members of council may ask you questions following your presentation. However, the function of council at this public hearing is to listen to you rather than to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw. In accordance with the council procedure bylaw, presentations by members of the public shall be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes each. If a person has additional information that he is unable to provide within that time frame, he shall be given further opportunity to address council after all other interested members of the public have been heard a first time. Please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion during this public hearing so that we may ensure as impartial a hearing as possible. After this public hearing is adjourned, council members will not speak to the public on this matter until after the matter has been dealt with at a public meeting. After this public hearing has concluded, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. So I will do a confirmation of advertising and posting requirements. Notice of this public hearing was given in accordance with the Local Government Act and the Community Charter by distributing the notice as follows. Publishing in 2 consecutive editions of the Osoyoos Times on August the 3rd and August the 10th, 2016. Placing the notice on the bulletin boards in the Town Hall and Planning and Development Services Department on July the 27th, 2016. Posting on the town's website July 27th, 2016, and distributed via e-news on July the 29th, 2016. Mailing individual notices to all property owners and tenants of properties within 60 meters of the subject property on August the 2nd, 2016, and updating the application signage on the subject property on July the 28th, 2016. Summary of staff report. The Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 1235.15 2016, Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1085.100 2016. The purpose of this meeting is to seek public input on OCP Amendment Bylaw 1230.15 2016 and Zoning Bylaw Amendment number 1085.100 2016, which received first and second readings on May the 2nd, 2016. The proposed amendments for the subject property located at 8 Brayburn Place and legally described as Lot A, Plan KAP 92543, DL 2450S, SDYD include amending the land use designation from high-density residential to low-density residential and amending the zoning from R7 high-density residential to R3 low-density residential. The purpose of these amendments is to facilitate a future 18 duplex lot subdivision. I'm now going to ask Dilys Hong, Senior Planner, to give the report, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor McCardoff. So the applicant proposes to amend the official community plan designation from high-density residential to low-density residential and to rezone the subject property from R7 high-density residential to R3 low-density residential in order to facilitate a future 18 duplex lot subdivision. During the May 2nd, 2016 regular open meeting, Council gave first and second readings to OCP Amendments Bylaw number 1230.15, 2016, and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1085.94, 2016, and requested that the developer set up a public open house. In terms of site description, the subject property has an approximate area of 2.58 hectares and is located on the north side of 92nd Avenue between 87th Street and Brayburn Place. Surrounding land uses include existing single-family residential development to the north and east, Elks Lodge and single-family residential developments within Electoral Area A to the south, and agricultural land reserve within Electoral Area A to the west. Lions Park is also located in fairly close proximity to the site to the southeast. The property was formerly a gravel pit and is currently vacant apart from some vegetation. There are slopes along the eastern, southern, and western perimeters of the parcel. In terms of proposed development, previously a development permit application for a multifamily development consisting of 109 townhouse units on the subject property was approved by Council in 2009. However, the development permit has since expired. The applicant now wishes to subdivide the property and develop 18 duplexes, comprising a total of 36 dwelling units. The 18 parcels are proposed to be oriented along a no-through internal road with access from Brayburn Place. The perimeter slopes will be located at the rear of the parcels behind a retaining wall constructed at the toe of the slope. And moving on to policy. Since the proposed development is not consistent with a high-density residential designation in the official community plan, it is proposed that the land use designation be amended to low-density residential, which is characterized by single-family and duplex dwellings. A number of nearby existing properties have the same land use designation. Although downzoning is not encouraged under the OCP, the proposal is consistent with the following OCP objectives and policies. Facilitate sufficient choices between different housing types, densities, and locations to meet varied and changing market needs. Minimize land use conflicts between existing and new residential development. And encourage duplexes as a lower-cost housing option, subject to design standards for their harmonious integration into single-family residential neighborhoods. A development permit application will also be applicable since the property is located in the farming interface development permit area. In terms of zoning, the proposed rezoning from R7 high-density residential to R3 low-density residential will allow two-family dwellings that are also known as duplexes as a permitted use. Overall, the proposed R3 zone would be compatible with the surrounding land uses and facilitate the integration of duplexes into the neighborhood. Prior to a public hearing, the applicant held a public open house on May the 18th, 2016 from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Sonora Community Center. Approximately 20 people were present and attendees had the opportunity to provide comments and feedback. A summary of the meeting along with the completed comment sheets are attached. Following are the general themes of the comments received at the public open house along with staff's response to each point. So first is the conformity of the proposed buildings. The proposed dwellings will be required to meet the zoning provisions under the R3 zone, such as minimum setbacks and maximum building height. While the multifamily development permit area considers duplexes as multifamily residential developments, the OCP states that this DPA is required only for areas designated for medium and high-density residential use. Staff is proposing to provide greater clarity by including duplexes under this DPA regardless of their land use designation through an OCP amendment. Regarding the comments on vacation rentals, the R3 zone does not permit short-term rental accommodation. Second is the stabilization and vegetation of slopes. A geotechnical assessment was conducted by Able Geotechnical that evaluates various geotechnical considerations for the proposed development. Since the subject property is located adjacent to ALR lands, one of the recommendations from the Agricultural Land Commission is the planting of vegetation on the northerly slope for visual and spatial separation between agricultural and residential uses. This recommendation is also consistent with the incorporation of buffers as per the town's farming interface DPA guidelines. Moving on to light pollution. With respect to the comments on keeping light pollution to a minimum, the town promotes dark sky lighting to reduce outward light loss and requires that lighting is placed not to shine on adjacent properties or cause distraction to drivers. Potential spade-foot toads. The town's shared environmental planner from the South Okanagan Similkameen Conservation Program has contacted a couple of regional biologists regarding the inquiry on potential spadefoot toads on the subject property. The biologists note that while spadefoots do breed in a pond located 300 meters to the west, and the property may be within mapped critical habitat by the provincial and federal governments in the future, they are currently unaware of the species' recent occurrences on the property, and public and historical occurrence mapping does not show spadefoots on the site. And lastly, in terms of traffic, safety, and infrastructure upgrades, True Consulting has recommended off-site upgrades to Braeburn Place and the section of 92nd Avenue fronting the subject property. And that is specifically between the section between 87th Street and Braeburn Place. Examples of upgrades include pavement replacement, curb and gutter, catch basins and dry wells, sidewalk, and ornamental street lighting. For the segment of 92nd Avenue, the reconstruction would involve cost sharing between the developer and the town. For Braeburn Place, a different cost-sharing arrangement may be more appropriate by including a contribution from the future developers of the lands known as the Effa property access at the end of Braeburn Place. In terms of implications for the community, the applicant, at his cost, convened an advertised public consultation meeting on May the 18th. Apart from the public open house comment sheets, no additional written submissions were received from the public at the time of writing this report. However, all members of the public have an opportunity to be heard and to present any written responses at today's public hearing. In terms of organizationally, Public and Development Services staff has forwarded the application to applicable referral agencies and departments for comments after the amendment bylaws received first and second readings from Council. In order to facilitate the proposed development, the subdivision, development permits, and building permit processes will be applicable following the OCP and zoning bylaw amendment stage. In terms of budget, off-site upgrades will involve cost sharing as determined in consultation with True Consulting. And lastly, in terms of sustainability, the proposed development would contribute to social sustainability by promoting additional housing choices to accommodate different lifestyle and housing preferences. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I do not believe we've had any correspondence since the open house. Is that correct? We had some at the open house, but we didn't have anything for today.
No, not after the open house, no.
Okay. So next on the agenda is the applicant presentation, and I believe that's, is that you, Brad? Okay, Brad, would you like to come up? Brad Alenko is the going to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Brad, do you mind just moving the mic up?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to go through a little bit of information. I think the Mayor and Dillis has very adequately described the situation, but just a few points. This particular slide, I'm just showing the proposed R3 development here, subdivision, 18 lots, 36 duplex. This was the proposal that was previously approved by Council, R7. That particular development, 109 unit multifamily development, previously approved. What's being proposed now, 18 lots, 36 single family. We're proposing 66% less density than was previously or presently allowed. In terms of the subdivision itself, just a few points. Bottom left hand, the residential density on the property will be reduced by 73 units at 66% from the multifamily development that was previously approved. Pedestrian and vehicular use on Braeburn Place will be less than half of that generated from the previously approved multifamily development. And as Dillis pointed out, the single-family residential development will be designed and constructed in accordance with the Town of Vesuvius subdivision and development servicing bylaw. And just a few quick points, rationale and support. The proposed R3 downzoning will result in significantly less density on the subject property than is presently permitted, reducing traffic and pedestrian usage on both Braeburn Place and 92nd Avenue from what would be provided by a development under the present R7 zone. The proposed rezoning and subsequent subdivision will result in adjacent road improvements as described by Dillis. And the proposed downzoning will maintain the single-family residential nature of the neighborhood. And Madam Mayor, that's just a quick summary of our presentation. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
I'll just enter this into the public record.
And now I'm just wondering if, first of all, if any of council has any questions. Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
Thanks, Brad. Very brief, but kind of informative. I like that comparison to the one that we approved a few years back. Just wondering if you could comment on the bank stabilization. I know that's a concern for not only the neighbors, but many people that don't attend these things, they make comments off the record. And specifically, is it a concern? And if it is, what's going to be done to kind of mitigate and stop any kind of risk in the future with regard to that?
The town of Vesuvius was very diligent in making that sort of a precondition of even getting out of the gates on the subdivision or this application. And the developer was required to provide a geotechnical report. So one was provided. There was some areas in that report that both staff and Mr. Underwood had some questions about. So that report was again updated to meet the town's terms of reference, I guess, the standards. And the new geotechnical report does indicate, and that report also dealt with seismic issues. We don't have a lot of earthquake issues here, but it did deal with the seismic matters, and it was determined that the slopes are stable in the condition they're at. Certainly the continued or the further stabilization of the soils or the slopes would be enhanced by vegetation, and that became evident at of concern at the open house. And I've certainly passed that on to the developer. There certainly are a number of species that can be planted without irrigation because you don't want to start trying to put water on those banks and crawling around and so forth. So something that's going to get started fairly quickly and grow on its own. And I can think of a couple right off the top. Staghorn sumac is one that it roots quickly, gets in there, looks great. Mahonia apifolium, Oregon grape, is another one that is a dry land and it'll root itself. So certainly that's going to be part of the developer's goal is to try to carefully get some vegetation planted on the slopes. The other key recommendation in the report was that although the banks were stable and there was no concern of sort of a rotational slip causing potential problems to the development or health and safety, but there will be the ongoing issue of small pebbles, fist-sized cobbles, sort of rolling down the bank. So the geotech report did require it's not a retaining wall, it's more of a catchment wall at the toe of the slope, just to catch any of that runoff that will be coming down the slope. And over time, if you have a slope like that, if you fast forward 100 years, it might be a degree or two less just because the stuff at the top is going to roll down. So this wall has been designed to sort of catch that material over time and just keep that material from sort of running off the hill, and one rock will come down, it'll hit another rock, and then that rock will come down. So there is a requirement for that catchment wall that's going to be perimeter at the rear of all of the lots.
Good. Thanks.
Anybody? Yeah, Councillor Youngberg.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Brad, how much fill is going to be required in that site?
I don't think any fill.
You're just going to use the base as it is?
I think so. We've done the preliminary topography of the site. It's actually ideal. It's slightly higher, a meter or so higher at the west end, which means it'll be great for gravity sewer coming down from the west to the east to tie into the municipal sanitary sewer. So I don't believe there'll be any fill import onto that site.
Thanks.
Good. Anybody else have any questions? Good. Well, thank you. See, it seems that we've looked at the comments that were written by several people, and it looks like those have been addressed. It's now, Mrs. Hilson, did we have anybody sign up to make a presentation? Thank you very much. And we have Rick Newman. You're the only one, so you better make it good. Go ahead.
My name's Rick Newman. I live on 92nd Avenue, directly across from the eyesore of gravel pit. And I'm quite glad to see it developed, and especially if it's not terribly high density. I do want to bring up some rather serious concerns. These fellows said that's what we should be talking about, and that's what's the traffic. I live on that street, right at that curve. Been in town for years, and I can guarantee you it's one of the most dangerous hills and curves in town. I've seen rather stupid things happening there. I'm amazed there haven't been any ambulances yet. Now, what's happened? Well, last year I spent most of the year in my front yard doing work, and I got to see the traffic. And in summer there is a lot of it. Just about bumper to bumper, sometimes a day. Big boats and trucks. And unfortunately, these guys are following one of the rules of the road. They're only using half the road, but it's the middle half. I've seen people speeding up the street right up the middle. It's really worrying me. If I try to get out of my driveway, it's a Hail Mary move this summer. So I've been thinking what you can do to improve the road rather than widen. Widen is another word for drive faster. You cannot allow that. Speed bumps will definitely solve speeding, but you get complaints from the snowplow driver. Speed humps might work. The very least you can do is put a yellow line down the middle of the road. And I've been looking further, doing some research, and there's something called a chicane. C-H-I-C-A-N-E, for those who don't know. I think you do.
Be writing it down.
And I went up there and started pasting things off and seeing how you could fit one in. It wouldn't be one. There would be two, maybe three on the way down the hill. It would take a little widening of the road just east of the Elks. And you put in chicane going, say you're going down the hill. Chicane going that way and back, and then down a few houses further, chicane going back the other way. That forces drivers to slow down.
For those of us that don't know, what is a chicane?
Chicane, it's an abrupt, deliberate curve added to a straight road.
This is on 92nd.
On 92nd.
Yeah, 92nd.
Okay. All right. Put weaves in the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Slows it down, sure.
You add a
Short
curve
distance.
going out, and on the inside of the curve that was pavement, you plant a tree or something. Nobody can any longer drive down the middle of the road. They have to do a sharp S and back. There aren't any in this town, but there are lots of examples around the world.
Okay.
And what I can say is that ever since Spartan Drive was turned into a one-way street, you've doubled the traffic every 92nd. And I just did a quick back of the envelope estimate. Adding 36 houses, you're going to redouble it. So it's pretty well guaranteed you're going to have some kind of traffic problem. The accident is waiting to happen. And as part of this planning, it's mostly going to fall on the town and on true consulting to establish some way of making that street safe. Right now it is not. Sharp curve, downhill, and a whole bunch of bushes along one side. There is no sight line.
So thank you very much. We do appreciate you making those suggestions, and I know that Mr. Cunningham has been writing that down, and I'm fairly sure that that True Consulting has been involved in this and looking at possible sidewalks, widening, that type of thing. So I'm sure that those will be taken into consideration.
I heard those words, and that scared me more than anything.
Oh.
Widened.
Oh, well, there may be, I'm not sure whether it's just perhaps widening for a sidewalk. Is that correct? Mr. Cunningham, would you like to respond?
So take your comments very seriously, very thoughtful. I think there's some very good suggestions there. Already Terry Underwood is on the team, and he's preparing preliminary designs for the improvements and costing them out and who should bear the cost of those. And following this meeting, what we'll do is we'll transmit these concerns and suggestions to them and ask them to give them very serious consideration, and if any are worthy of picking up, and I'm sure some of them are, make sure that they're covered in this cost estimates for work to be done. So thank you very much.
Okay, how do I stay in the loop?
We can undertake to send you an update, in fact, on what we received from Terry Underwood. So we'll make sure you get that information.
Right.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you. I do not see anyone else who has signed the list to speak, so I will ask if there's anyone who would like to make any comments or submissions. I'll ask for the second time. Is there any other comments or submissions? And for a third time, any other comments or submissions? Hearing none, thank you very much. I will declare this meeting closed. And do we need a motion to close it? No, it's closed. Good. Thank you very much, everyone, for your input.